Welcome to another episode of The Jelly Show live. So this week we have one of my dearest friends, longest friends actually, since I've been in the career I'm in now. And one of those people that you meet very early on and be like, oh, thank God, this industry is full of kindred spirits. So the fantastic, the awesome, the wonderful Mr. Justice Mitchell. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on the show.
No worries. So live from Florida.
Indeed.
And how is it? Is it beautiful? Because we got some gorgeous sun right now.
It's not today. It has been a little bit overcast the last few days, but such as it is, like that, we're not going outside. So
this is it. It's just it's even more of a tease now. Absolutely.
Kind of look out, you're like, okay, that's what it would look like if I was outside.
Still gorgeous. Still gorgeous.
Yeah.
So how and let's jump into that, right? So I think we're a little bit ahead of you guys as far as lockdown has happened so far. So I'm moving into in fact, my wife asked me last night, she was like, how long have we been inside now? I was like, this is week 4. This is week 4 now that we've been full lockdown. How is it over in Sunnyland?
So the interesting thing that happened, Orlando's a little bit more progressive and it's thinking over the state. So therefore, one of the things that happened with us is our mayor and local officials basically quarantined before the state did.
Okay.
So we have been the advocacy for on our end has been to kind of shut down sort of standard operations, if you will, for as we're rolling into about the 3rd week. And then my daughter had spring break.
Right.
A 1 week, and then after that, right into they made a quick switch with the local schooling and literally got her into a virtual environment in that time, and so right. She's been So we've all gone from our jobs where we're running all over the place to stay at home parents and virtual and this and that and the other thing, and we just all picked up the baton and marched with it. But I think one of the things is I think I think it admirably been a pretty decent shift in my thinking for people that were somewhat accustomed to these kinds of environments. But as we all well know, the States is woefully behind you guys, as well as I think in a lot of ways, not to get too political, but
we've had beers and had this conversation. I know.
Yeah. I'm if those of us who are watching, I sit on the people's side, not on the person's side, not on the individual that thinks he runs the show. I'm very much about hoping that we all do well and survive in a capacity that doesn't require.
Well, what has been interesting is obviously, the UK is smaller and more agile, much like, you as a state, you can kind of, you've got the space to be able to move that many people and do it. But it's been really interesting, like you say, for people like us who I would say 99.9% of our relationship has all been where we've spoken for years via Zoom, right?
Exactly.
I'm completely used to this way of not only doing business, but also like communicating with friends, family. So for me, it hasn't been too much of a shift, but seeing the amount of people who are now first time on Zoom, it's huge. Like it's a huge shift. And those people haven't used, like tons of people just haven't used online communication in any way. So it's really interesting to see how everyone's jumped on kind of a bandwagon, I guess, that you and I were on for a while.
Oh, yeah. I love all the memes that have come out recently that show like the multi-frame Zoom of like, no, Sarah, your mute button's down in the lower right. You need to click it off because we can't hear you. And then all of the jargon, which has been like funny to me because I've been in this so long that it's like, well, these are just the memes about conference calls 15 years before that. Yeah. And then there was something else that's like, so I've always sort of stumbled my way, ahead of the curve from a technology standpoint, but not really feeling like I did.
Yeah. So how have you seen, what's the best example that you've seen of a business just do the switch then? You're talking about schools have done the switch. I know we were talking about before the show.
Well, interestingly enough, it was kind of funny. And I put myself in this particular room in my home, which is my dojo, and I practice martial arts. of various forms of sort of a mixed bag, a Krav Maga and a karate, a Shotokan style. And one of the things is the school that I spend the vast majority of time at, which is approximately 2 or 3 miles away, shifted because we're not allowed to, like, there's the social distancing aspect, there's the how many people can you have in a room aspect, there's all of these other variables, and they admirably, like, within the period of about a week to a week and a half, developed and in a large franchise school. We're talking, I would probably say the primary brand is probably, it's called Championship Martial Arts, and the primary brand I would say was probably about, I don't know, maybe 50 schools, and then there's ancillary brands that hold their curriculum, and they moved everything into a virtual environment, and scheduling and deployment and marketing and Zoom and sending out Zoom links for a calendar, an hourly calendar.
Nice.
Sending that out daily.
Wow.
And then they're pushing that up inside of privatized Facebook groups, and they're sending that out inside of other groups. And not only that, but I mean, in some respects, they're even flourishing in that they've taken this model and they're utilizing some of the things that they would do, like in a brick and mortar fashion, where they take the school and they say, hey, come and invite your friends for a week to take classes. They're doing it in the same way. Like this week, they're advocating for the kids to give a link away to Buddy online. So I'm like sitting there, I'm like, they're brilliantly utilizing the things that were already at their disposal inside of a virtual environment. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm sure that they've lost, everybody's lost something. I'm sure there's some sort of percentage that they have on the books that is going to show fallout. But for the most part, I think that, way to turn a frown upside down. I mean,
and it's things that, again, conversations you and I have had many, many times, but these are the kind of suggestions that we make to businesses and have been for years. But people are like, oh, well, that's a real nice to have. What this situation has put us in is where so many of those, solutions are now necessities, but completely usable when everyone is back out there. You implement all these strategies and everything. It's going to be so useful after the fact if you manage to get a bigger audience who maybe they're not a couple of miles away from the gym. They don't end up using it, but they can still continue to be part of the community because they're 4 hours away, which is a hop, skip, and a jump for for Florida.
And the reintroduction of a brand, or I should say, an introduction to a brand of people that may not even know it at all. If I gave you, I could easily give you the buddy code in the UK, and you could sit there and be like, I'm training in Florida right now or wherever, and you're getting a live environment, a quality, and the thing that I think that they've done admirably well is not only that, but the instructors have also utilized the media. That's huge when you start talking about these technologies and integrating technologies. Is that I've seen a lot of martial arts schools literally like just stand out and do jumping jacks as if like it was a room full of people, and that's like, I'm like, that's not utilizing the medium. So they're like literally they're walking in, they've got the grid up in Zoom, so they're literally saying, nice. Sarah, good, keep your guard up, this such and such, hey, Eric, you chamber that kick, and that they're this interaction that gives you a sense of the live sense of positive feedback that you would get in a room if you were to take that in a real-time environment, or I should say in a real geographical environment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so that's another thing that I think you already have the hurdle of technology with a lot of brands, and now they're starting to use it, but they're not sharing screens. They're not like exchanging, the medium in such a way that like, for instance, little throwaway thing, like I threw in an animated background in Zoom during a meeting and everybody freaked out. How did you do that? Like I had magical witchcraft. All of a sudden I was the wizard, it's like,
you are the wizard.
So I laugh in that capacity, but it's just like, that's the kind of thing that we're doing. We're all playing catch up in a way. Now, I don't think that every business model, nor every business, unfortunately, is prone to be able to make that shift.
No,
However,
that's true.
To your point, and I think most astute, is that this is so unprecedented. This is so, the way, the nature and the way of this lockdown and this thing, and just watching a standardized business model, like a, whatever,
Yeah.
just drop off the map before your eyes. And then you've got, on the flip side, you've got, marketing's doing curbside pickup or deliveries or whatever, and like they're trying to be, they're doing their best to be nimble, and I think that it's admirable. And I think, and a lot of what we're doing is, necessity is the mother of all invention, and we're all kind of going, cobble that together and see if it works. And like we're almost doing Scrum development, like as a restaurant. Like, anybody have any ideas? Let's try that today. And it's so like, it's like watching an agile group, like, all yell at each other, but instead of testing it for 10 days, like, let's just shoot it for an hour and see if anybody calls.
Let's jump 7 sprints ahead and let's just get it done today. We don't need to do. I love it. It's so true. But the nice thing is like you say, some of that that you're throwing at the wall is landing really, really well. And for some business, it's so impressive. And, incredible to hear, like, a school. So many of my friends have young kids, and they've just become tutors, and we're moving into week 2 of that. And they understand why teachers are such good jobs right now, because they're not good at it. They're having a real hard time to get 4 and 5-year-olds to listen to them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, today we're going to learn something.
Well, not to mention the parents trying to learn, like, we have Common Core, and which is like this revision of math of like, hey, remember how you used to do it, oldies? Yeah. It ain't like that anymore. And you're looking at it and you're just like, can you ask one of your other friends, because I don't really know what I've
seen that. It's when you find out that you do division wrong. I'm like, I do? Because I divide things correctly, but no, that's wrong now.
That's wrong. That's wrong. Exactly.
So what you're saying is I have to have a kid now to learn how to do things properly.
But,
okay.
We're dumb enough not even to gravitate to the metric system, so we're so woefully behind I can't even begin. But anyway, I digress.
Oh, you're a pound of flesh. So you work with a whole bunch of businesses, right? How have you seen and obviously, because you consult with marketing across the board, how have you seen engagement? I'm seeing some businesses let's say businesses, industries, some it's completely dropped off. No one seems to care, whereas others has increased them. I've seen tons of statistics which show how just the overall usage has increased. So we know everyone's out there, but are you seeing that with different businesses, like the increased engagement, loss of engagement?
So I'll give you a quick snapshot of myself here. So complete transparency, I'm a full-time CMO for a medical practice that specializes in vision correction called Magruder Laser Vision outside of Orlando. And within that, one of the things is, obviously, as a medical practice, you have to be incredibly sensitive to the health concerns of not only your patients and your guests, but the perception of how much you are, touching these things. I always, I've taught advertising and marketing before at the University of Central Florida, and one of the things that I always tell kids is, I'm like, we don't tell the truth, but we don't lie. We craft perception, and so as a marketer, you craft perception, and that's really what you wield, is this power of making sure that whoever is looking at you, they see you in a way that's just like, well, they have their stuff together. That's good. And these people over here, I don't think I want to go there anymore, because, so one of the things that I've been advocating for a lot of businesses. Now, that being said, let me jump out real quick. And I have my own company at home, which is Big Block Studios. And I've had that since 2000. So I do consulting and freelance and all kinds of wonderful things to give you to put a little bit more icing on Big Block Studios. Big Block started as a virtual agency before a virtual agency was a thing
in 2000.
And we were and my advocacy was like,
wow.
I know so many people that freelance that are like the top of their agency or their particular niche,
sure,
that that's my Rolodex, and anybody could bring me anything, and I could fractionally, I could take on any project that I wanted to. at a fraction of the cost because you're not paying for the big building and the 50 people that are there and all the
So,
coffee and drink and whatever.
You thought up Fiverr in 2000.
I wasn't that inexpensive, but so the interesting thing is much like what GLProUK is to me is very much you're just an extension of Big Block Studios for my company. I mean, so when I get people, and in fact, I think that I run a number of marketing boards, and just the other day, you and I were there, and I raised my hand when somebody says I need X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, these are the people that you talk to, yeah, and that's what we do. But the thing, but more than that, it's not just the fact that it's just like I think they're able to do that. I get to cherry pick, like I get to and that makes me look so great because I'm ultimately saying these guys have rocked it for so many years for me and done everything under the sun. They'll do the same for you, and then anyway.
But then that's the wonderful thing about Big Block is that people's limitations, where people will exceed, and then you can put the right place or the right project to the right person or people. If it's a case of like you would kill this, but you would not be able to do the whole project. The good news is there's another two people that I also know who can pick that up and take it through. It's an incredible, it's an incredible model, and it's how many businesses how many ideas now are built on exactly that. Which in 2000, that's revolutionary. That is revolutionary.
And beyond that too, as a younger marketing professional, we have a tendency to hold ownership or marriage over the things that we build. For me, Big Block was a way of going, you know what? I don't do this as well as GLProUK.
Yeah, sure.
And ultimately the product and the client is mine, and me making this marriage of all of these exceptional creative minds just bolsters my craft. I think the thing is we need to be honest with ourselves as marketers to say, I don't do that well. I'm going to find the right people to do it, and then ultimately parlay that into the whole body of work. So,
and that's okay because ultimately I'm looking at the results. I'm trying to get something done here, and you don't need to be like, right now I'm going to do audio while I build the website, and so now I'm posting. You can spread that out across the best people.
I've told one of my things I said to my marketing students is I'm like, if you work for a massive agency and you have a $50 million account and you can't make great advertising, then you just suck at advertising.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I want to know what you can do with $5,000 for a local band or a little restaurant that has, a grand.
Yeah.
And that's their marketing budget, So, but circling all the way back around. So the medical community, one of the things about this crafting perception messaging and that whole discussion is that, and I think what's really, really critically important is staying outside of what everybody's talking about, the noise.
Always, right? Yeah.
So everybody's talking about, COVID. I mean, it became a joke to us as marketers. It's like, what's the most unrelated brand that you have received safety information on what you should do on how to wash your hands? And I literally posted the other day, I was like, Sherwin-Williams paint. A house paint in a can company is telling me why I need to wash my hands. And I'm like, the definition of noise. So the thing is you as a brand or a business or a small business or at any level need to own the understanding that yes, this is all that we're talking about over here in this nest of noise, but like where can I sit left and right of that, give you solid actionable education, but also, move that discussion through. Much like this show to me is not sitting there telling you like, what you should have done and what you could do. And
just not a doctor. I've got some real strong opinions on it as well. But I just don't think it's a good idea for me to be saying it, because what if someone listens to that or someone passes it on who doesn't know that I'm a gibbering idiot, and someone three shares down the line is like, good to know. Jay says, right. if you drink fizzy cola, no COVID. Good to know.
Right, exactly. Wash your eyes out with bleach, you'll be fine.
This is Todd Clorox. Yeah, sure.
and then hold the bottle up.
Strawberry flavored, strawberry cheesecake flavored bleach. Absolutely.
I've been joking around about now with my marketing friends. I'm like, how long is it going to take for brands to start paying people in Zoom meetings to like literally hoist their product?
Right.
And like, like the old,
using the old earpods to have this interesting live show with you.
That's right. I don't know if you guys know, but these sneakers have as they, you're doing a Zappos ad while you're trying to like discuss the next budget round. So I just think that that's comical. But isn't that the level of granularity that we've gotten to? It's like, well, if I can sell to 20 people, I mean, we used to think like, make sure that it goes on the New York Times and spend a boatload of money and it says it's going to go to like X number of millions of people of this demographic. It's like, well, that's a shot in the dark.
That's what salespeople say. That is exactly what salespeople say every single time. The publication is read by over. Is it? Is it really? Is it? But I think one of the really interesting things is to see how like content's going to change. Like, so content almost is changing because I'm seeing our prime minister or our government, because our prime minister's in the hospital at the moment, but our government answer questions to the to all of the news, and everyone's at home. So the Sky News guy, the BBC News, whoever is calling in, and they've got the same backgrounds you and I have. Okay, maybe they're not in a kick-ass dojo, but that's just, we don't have good enough journalists. But we're seeing it on mainstream TV now. I'm seeing like the Sunday morning cooking show where they have guests come on all the time. It's now done with a guy in a camera and he's holding his phone over the frying pan he's cooking. All of a sudden,
Jimmy Fallon with Lady Gaga's interview the other day. It's like, here's this, I'm literally.
I didn't see it. Is that how they did that as well?
Oh, and it's very awkward. Yeah, it's one of those moments of like, we probably didn't put too much housekeeping or pre-show into this, but it's like, yeah, nobody exactly knew what anybody was going to do, but no, you're right. You're right.
Even down to like This Week Tonight. Is that the show? Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. They moved, and it's a great show, but has laughter, at each part of the joke because it's in front of an audience. They filmed a show just before lockdown, and they'd have to move studios because there was a possible infection, and it was done without the laughter. I loved it. Like, I really liked it. I sat there dying with laughter, and without that kind of, it's not canned laughter. It is an audience, but
Trevor Noah's doing it with the Daily Show too. And in some respects, I've seen a number of pieces where it looks like he's on a, semi set, which is probably another bedroom or hotel or whatnot. But it's like a same scenario where it's like no laughter, and that's when you can really tell that the writing is that good when you're still laughing.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Nobody's telling you that's funny.
100%. And then unfortunately, I did catch an episode from the second season of the new Matt LeBlanc offering from a sitcom, and that really, really needed every ounce of the canned laughter that they brought with it, because I was sat there, it was like, is that a joke? That's a joke. Well,
look at and here's a sweet spot for all of GLProUK and Big Block Studios in a marriage is look at UFC. I mean, not only are they continuing to develop content, they're thriving in doing it. Dana White's decided that, well, I'm going to leverage this because I don't require all of the, well, yes, I probably make $1 zillion on ticket sales, and I know I'm going to make X on pay-per-view or whatever. And I also probably have a relationship with, the Disney contract of X number of pieces of content, but they're repurposing that as well. Very, very well, in fact. But, one of the things that he's literally said just the last couple of days, he's like, I'm in the midst of buying a private island so that I can continue to hold fights and that we can quarantine the island itself and maintain a strict medical conditions. Exactly. It's like, wow, you want to talk about ownership of like what you intend to do. Not only that, but the last couple of fights that I've seen, literally, it's just like you got the trainer group over here, the trainer group over here, you got the judge, the guy that rings the bell, the chick, and that's it. Time to go. But there's no one there.
Amazing. I was talking to someone. I was on an Insta Live yesterday. I was talking to someone about it. I was like, how, what is the minimum they can do? And I was guessing 100, 200 people, but they're just like complete skeleton staff.
Complete. It's just your team, my team, and the funny thing is and I giggle because it's like, it's the marketing. They still do all the pizzazz. They still got like the DMX rolling out and the lasers and the whatnot and everything, and there's no one there. And I'm just like, that's awesome. I mean, I was like, wow. So
that must be a terrible walkout for fighters. That must be putting them in a terrible headspace where they're literally walking down and being like, well, this is awful. This sounds really empty.
Right, exactly. You swing, you connect with the best hook of your career, and like you bring the guy practically to his knees, and nobody cheers at all, and you're like, okay, I guess I got to keep going. But Dana was like, because I mean, he's one of the only leagues that's not bound by so much pomp and circumstance. I mean, all the primary sports in the States is like, we've got, hockey and baseball and American football and so forth. And all of those are like so knee deep in
such a storied history that there's so much behind it, right?
Right.
So much behind it. There's so many boxes to tick. You have so many committees and things and everything. Whereas he can make the decision. He can be agile. Yeah. He can just decide this entire sport's going to an island I own.
So that's a good question for you as a business. I mean, how agile or how modular is your business model? I mean, is there a way to, because again, I don't think anybody ever prepared for this in their wildest dreams, but I think everybody's going forward. Everybody's going to have literally we need a tidal wave plan.
Sure.
So when it slams into the building, that we have some way of keeping the doors open.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things I've talked about with clients in the past, after doing the discovery session and doing outlining goals and objectives and having a discussion and mission and values and so forth, I always say, what does success look like? And then I always say, and what does failure look like? And then I'm like, and then I'm like, 5 years from now, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I think ultimately you just need to take that 5 years, make it 3 years, or make it 1 year, and just say, what does that look like? How do we prepare for it? Even if it's in a skeleton format and written down on one Word doc. I mean, you have something while everybody is scrambling. So
you got to have a plan. I love that as well. It's one of the first questions we ask as well. What does massive success look like? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? What's your BHAG, which is one of my favorites. But tell us that. Great, because can we get you there as marketing alone? Probably not. Probably not. It needs to, it's built in with sales, and it's a combined effort as a business. But I can point everything towards that direction for how for the next 6 months, a year, a day, whatever we're looking to achieve. What I've found so interesting is how many of those marketing calendars, schedules, well thought out, solid plans have just been crunched up, thrown in the back of the room because of everything that's happened. And there is no, not any solution, but there's not even any, there wasn't ever any a view that this was a possibility.
So let's take a look at that quickly, just for businesses that are listening. What are the quick fixes that we can do? For instance, one of the things that I'm seeing in the medical community, especially patient-paid services, which meaning in the States means like with LASIK, you still pay for it. Insurance isn't going to pay for it. So we don't have socialized medicine in that capacity. So you're actually paying the $4,000 or $5,000 for that particular procedure. So that being said, one of the things that's important for us to talk about, and not necessarily in medical community, I'm just talking about anything. It's like things like right now we're doing, we're incentivizing people to kind of pre-invest with like gift cards, if you will, or certificates that will also give an amount of money on top of.
Nice. So, okay.
Let's just, for easy math, let's just say you give us 100, we give you 10, you give us 500, we give you 100, etc. I think one of the things is, and at least for you as a business, now you have cash in your pocket now rolling forward, as opposed to sitting there awaiting those customers, and they get the sense that they're getting a discount, they're getting free money, and they ultimately know that they can't get the procedure now anyway, so they might as well, in their best interest, invest for something that maybe they couldn't afford 6 months from now.
So smart. I was speaking to a guy who runs an agency this morning, and his agency to sell advertising for sporting events, and he was saying right now is the time to buy. Right now, for the first time I think he said he'd been running the business 25 years or something like that. And the first time in his entire career that he's ever seen it, has it been a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market right now in sports advertising, because for the first time ever, they don't have you by the short and curlies. People
Right.
going out and investing for 2021, or being, really thinking about it and saying, what's your 3-year deal look like right now? And then putting the next 3 years in, and someone who hasn't sold anything, whoever knows long, every contract's been pulled. Pow! Great opportunity. It's
Yeah.
surprising how many businesses, though, because we have our government have given the option to furlough staff, which essentially means that they can't work, or they can work for
That's
you.
what we're doing. That's what we're doing in the States. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So, I've been so surprised how many times I've seen companies who the entire marketing department have been furloughed in the first wave. I'm just like, what now? Now?
Exactly.
Like, that seems like a bold, bad move.
Right. This is an opportunity. It feels abstract, because the fact that the doors aren't open, that you would be spending in lieu of going dark. But the thing is, you have captive eyes. I mean, look at Disney Plus, for instance. Disney Plus just got its subscriber base 4 years ahead of what they projected. But I don't think that, obviously, they never saw this groundswell of pandemic that would be associated with that. But at the same thing, here's a situation where clearly they're not going to shut off their service, and in so doing, obviously have provided ample content and probably a lot of sanity for parents in the meantime. So,
globally as well. So
they've single-handedly kept people alive.
Wow, you guys in Florida, you love that mouse, man. Love that mouse.
I'm telling you. But there, I mean, content that you are constructing, and I go back to content marketing all the time. It's like, as long as you have, content that's genuinely educational, and even, somewhat mildly entertaining, I think that you're going to at least have and maintain, hopefully, your base of people that are watching that.
Well, and this is the hilarious thing. So I've seen lots of comments again about people, especially as it's got, because it kind of went from like, is this bad, to we're locked inside, this is terrible, out of nowhere. So, same everywhere as it's hitting. It's kind of, it's only happening over, it's here, and it's in full force. So I'm seeing lots of people post out where they're saying it's not a good idea. You shouldn't be cold calling. You shouldn't be prospecting people like now. You shouldn't be bothering people. And I just fully disagree, because right now is the first time when so many people are just out there desperate for solutions. Like, I have a bunch of problems I never, as we've said for the entire live show, right? Never foresaw these problems, never had a plan. Now I've got a bunch of challenges which I have to resolve. If you are a salesperson who has value, same thing you're saying with marketing, then it's okay. And I think really what's happening now is people are realizing, I don't have any value. The thing I sell isn't of use. And every business is pivoting. I've seen cafes who are now doing, they become shops. They're now delivering locally all of the produce, etc., because they have the supply chain. Incredible. I love that. What a great idea. And they're still out there pushing that and pushing the sales. And I think it's incredible that people are saying we lock down marketing, we lock down sales, shouldn't bother people right now, when basically everyone for the first time is like sat in the same position pulling their hair out.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And to that end, and I'll even like further that, the one thing that I think that is incredibly important is don't be part of the noise when you are making that message.
No.
So don't just sit there and be like, this is the thing I've told anybody that I've ever worked for in an agency is, I'm like, don't come to me that you're angry about X. Come to me with that. Come to me with the problem. That's fine. And then give me, even if it's the most ridiculous solution ever, bring me something. So I think that one of the things that is, as marketers and as we extend out that messaging, it can't just be like, yeah, are you sad like me, inside trapped? That nobody cares about that. Tell me, how do I, give me solutions, actionable content that is something that I can, pull the trigger on right now. And I also think that I used to joke around about the 10-90 rule, which was, is give away 10% and you sell 90. I think now we need to give away a lot more, just for the value and the credit as a brand, stating that it's like, you know, here's all the things that are usually in our secret black book that we don't give away. Here, you should have them because we're all in the same damn boat.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
how you're going to build a community of people who may not have used you before, may have used the competitor across the road, or, you know, may have had their person they used before. If they're no longer communicating, they're no longer selling, we're all shut. We're, you know, we're all not open for business in one way or another. But if we're someone else who's communicating to my audience, if I'm not going to do it, they're going to pick them up. They're going to find their business. They're going to keep them afterwards. And that's going to be the community who are there for them during the crisis, opposed to the guys who shut up shop, who were there for them in the good times and not in the bad. It's such a, I understand it. I do understand it, but it seems like a callback to previous recessions. And, you know, even down to the most recent recession of 2008, 2009, the world is a very, very, very different place. I mean, there may have been a few innovators like you out there starting virtual agencies back in 2000, but the rest of us hadn't quite caught up at that point. Right? And over the last 12 years,
I just said that that's what it was. I mean, you know.
But now the whole world is run like that. You can't cut off marketing. It is an essential part of getting out there, an essential tool that sales need to use to get out to people. And if you have something that value, now's a great time. Like, that's a really helpful time to get out in front of people and be like, hi, I have this thing. I know you didn't care last week. That's okay, because this thing fixes the problem today. And that's a good thing to do for a change.
And I think too, as marketers, we can have this as this what I refer to as a kimono approach, meaning just like, hey, we can just, you know, like, let's just talk about it because, like, you know what, these are my bits, those are your bits, and everybody's okay. And because of the fact that we're all sitting in the same pool of mud, you know, it's like none of us don't understand the other one. So we can kind of rip down all the pomp and circumstance and just get to the point of like whatever that particular, call to action is, or whatever, to your point, like, you know, I've got a thing that could help you, you know, and you know what, it's very much like, you know, if you like, let's talk. And if not, you know, it's okay, because I'm not going to sit there and like bury you inside of like a drip campaign for the next 5 months. I'm very much going to just sit there and say, okay, fine, I'm going to move on, because I don't want to disturb you any more than I want to be disturbed. So.
Yeah, because I'm sat in the same boat, having a real hard time not needing people to call me about things I don't need as well. And I think it's, you know, it could be hopefully a way where people come out of it with a lot more skills on social, like a lot more skills on social media and how to talk and how to present themselves. Because there's a lot of people who just don't know and just don't get it. And then, oh, I wouldn't want to, what if someone messaged me? And I'm like, well, it's the point. It's being social. Don't worry, we can deal with that later. But, you know, those people are just having to get used to it, because it's how you're communicating with people. So for tips, right? So what are some tips that you've got for businesses can do right now to try and help themselves out?
I think one of the things is one of the things that we all do is just as marketers, as we forecast, like what kind of messaging do we want to put to the fall or the summer, or,
sure,
you know, we've got holiday season coming up, and that looks different for every product and every service. But let's go ahead and market in such a way that we are talking about a little bit of, we are talking about 3 months from now, and trying to incentivize your customer base into the idea of, I'm not saying selling that time, but enticing them about the future.
Yeah.
Because right now, we just, if we sit there and like, you know, just sit there and be like, you know, we know this and we know this, and, you know, I don't want to be like Igor. It's like you have to make a compelling discussion and develop that. You know, I would say rewards programs, affiliate relationships, develop more of that thinking towards the future, whether it's, you know, selling certificates or gift cards or what have you. One of the things too, I think, is talk about what's coming. Talk about what's coming for your business, and in that way, you not only look like a thought leader, but you also are you're giving people something to look forward to. In that, I want to stay with these people because they're taking this time to be revolutionary and to try to evolve and to try to be modular and to try to shift.
Exactly.
Because if you're just going to spit out the same messaging over and over and over again, that's great for brand substantiation. But you know what? In the long run, I don't even hear you.
No, and what it's doing is it's showing out those brands which don't have anything really to say. about anything that's happening now. They can just say, oh, we do good stuff. We do good stuff, which right now
Right.
means you're going to kind of disappear because people want some information. But again, I'm very much with you. I reason so for all the brands that we run the digital marketing for, when this first started, I was just so big on the fact of like fact checking. We can't post stuff. We don't know things. We're marketers. We're digital marketers. Like we're not. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a politician. I have views on both, which are mostly made up by Joe Rogan's ideas, and I can't be trusted to inform other people. And as you know, as someone who is the gatekeeper for a company of gatekeepers for all the companies out there, I just said no, just a flat no. I think it's tacky. It's, you know, people are dying from it. It's not a thing to jump on. And like so many IT security companies very early on were doing, you know, virus puns. Worried about the virus? Us too. Cyber virus. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Like,
but and nobody's fault. I mean, you know, marketing kids are taught in college. It's like, you know, here's the primary triggers. You know, fear, sex, you know, power, blah blah. You know, so it's like, you know, well, I would just go to the low hanging fruit tree and be like, okay, let's make everybody scared of viruses. But I think also you mentioned a great word is good, and I think one of the things to do now, I love brands that are disregarding themselves and they're pointing out the things that are happening that are great. You know, that like these like there's like, you know, there's a couple in their basement with a half a dozen 3D printers making face shields.
I say, yeah.
You know, and here you got these primary brands that are going, that's, you know, that's ingenuity and power, and we respect that, and hats off. Here's this great big brand, you know, tipping their hat to two little people in a basement. You know, and guess what? It makes me feel great about the great big brand, and they had nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
You know, I mean, but the fact that they're acknowledging it. So I think one of the things is dependent upon the size of who you are. I would have last year referred to this as community outreach. Is you know, this idea of like, you know, influencing good by, you know, helping a larger cause. Now, I mean, the larger cause is all of us, and I think anybody with even a little bit of money, you know, supplying support or attention or direction to these kinds of like people that are innovators. I saw somebody did a 3D mock-up model of a ventilator that is like under $500.
Wow.
And they were giving away open source the code to build it.
Yeah.
And that's why, that's the thing. It's like we need that to sink our teeth into to get us forward. And I think that and us as brands right now, those are the superheroes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're pointing out. Those are the winners. So I think if we piggyback or hijack that leverage, you know, going forward, at least for the next 6 months, maybe a couple of years, maybe even take and nurture that relationship with those small companies and show that you're a supporter progressively. Because frankly, I mean, I'm not trying to beat up what I'm seeing about the science, but this looks like it might be a couple of years in rotation until like a definitive vaccine is done, and that we just throw it out the window like the regular flu. But you know, let's give credit where the credit is due. I mean, innovation is happening super fast, and us associating and being part of that, I think, is great.
And it's one of the times when you can really hang your hat and say, you know, especially, you know, with the marketing of your company, getting that message out. If you're supporting things, if you're supporting people, if you're seeing stuff which has inspired you, now's a good time, because a lot of people sat at home. Well, everyone is sat at home. And, you know, for those of us who, my poor wife, I mean, she does this all the time, the poor lady. She's just on her own. People need good messages out there. They need positivity and things to take their mind off their ridiculously energetic husbands thinking of, there's another idea, yay! You know, you know, but we're all like that. You know, there's a big conversation about mental health right now. Get out there, say the positive things. We know that it's really negative, and we have, you know, people that we can listen to and believe in some ways or another about, you know, what is happening. But we, as a marketing or as the voice of your company, you actually have the opportunity to help people out a little bit right now. And if you can't with your product, at least you can with the mood and tone of things.
Right. Right. And also, too, I think to your point about not going dark, I mean, now's the time to also produce content. Produce content. I mean, even if you're at home and even if it's not great, again, the open kimono, we all know, we're all sitting there, we're all we're all at home. So we're all okay with the fact that you're in your living room or whatever. So it doesn't require the polish. The fact of still maintaining a high touch willingness, and it doesn't even need. And it always terrifies my clients when I say, I need you to bolster their content. They're like, I have no time. I'm not. I'm like, you don't have to have time. You can. This is an excellent opportunity for you just to say, hey, look at this great thing. These are my takeaways. What do you think? Now you've incentivized discussion, and yet it's not necessarily even your thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's
this liaison.
And that seems to be where, how people like to engage now. They want to hear from someone who's not necessarily selling a product or a thing. They want to hear from someone that they're interested in, and then they become, like you say, kind of a thought leader out there. And it's not a difficult thing to be. So look, we're going to wrap this up. But if the good people out there, they want to come find you, what's your address and your bank details? No, let's do
everything is Justice Mitchell, Justice, last name Mitchell, Mitchell, and that's justicemitchell.com. And then if you put that into Google, if I did my job right, there's probably a smattering of Big Block Studios and an array of other different things that are in there, my Twitter and so forth. But it's been a pleasure.
I'm pretty sure if you search the Justice League of DC, your face comes up first because you put it out there that much.
It's so funny you should say that. That was my Zoom background yesterday, was the halls of justice. I found a still and I had the arch in the background and everybody's like, yeah, well, that's appropriate. Like, can we move on? I'm just like, come on.
This is gold, people. Gold.
I know, right? Exactly. Smile for once. Come on.
Justice, thanks for coming, man. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.